Hey there, just wanted to share with you some behind the scenes. You rarely see me on camera. Why? Because I'm always working. I've got all kinds of projects going on around Sassafras Acres, but my wife always is encouraging me, hey, people want to know how to do this or that, frame, put on a deck, do drywall. So I'm going to take a quick pause. This is going to be very basic, how to finish drywall. So if you see here, I left off, it's been taped, and I'm going to show you how to put on a bed coat. So when you're running a finish, you have basically two coats, bed coat and skim coat. That's after the tape, of course, is already on. Now some use pan and knife. For example, a broad knife like this and a pan to put mud on. I was trained by an old plasterer, my father, who learned drywall in the 60s, and so he was actually trained by plaster in Paris guys. So I'm going to show you how to run a joint using a hawk and a trowel. Now, if you were trained by your father and he ran pan and knife, that's going to be the best way to run drywall. It's just a matter of preference, really. There are a few benefits of running a trowel versus pan and knife, and I'll show you one of the quick reasons. A trowel has a heavy spine, which keeps the joint a little truer. Pan and knife, or a knife rather, flexes quite a bit. Now you'll see the drywall trowel has a bow in it. Really, drywall trowels, this is the only style they make. It's a bow trowel. You can get it in different sizes from 8, 10, 14, 16 inches and probably larger. So this is what I use to put on the bed coat or the first coat. So first thing you want to do is just get a feel for working the mud. And
looks like icing.
It's not. You don't want to eat any
I
of
want
this.
cake now.
All right, so I'm going to just apply pressure. And you'll see that as I get down the wall further, I'll close my trowel which moves the mud forward. Now you see there's a couple different colors of the mud, and that's only because I had dropped in a knife full of all-purpose in this lightweight mud. You'll go down your top, cut down your edge, cut down the bottom, and then run down the edge, or run down the middle rather. Now the more pressure you apply, the flatter that joint becomes.
Which is what you want, right?
Which is what you want. You'd think that because there's that bow in the trowel that you're leaving too much mud on the wall. Not necessarily. As you press, that blade can flex pretty flat. The nice thing about applying pressure to your joints too is you're working out all the air bubbles. So that's a nice tight bed coat. And I can show you how over here to run a different joint called a butt joint. Now this is a flat. That's when two recessed pieces of drywall come together. There's a little recess where the roller rolls the drywall out of the factory. So when two recesses are together, That's called a flat. When you have two cut pieces like this, this is a butt joint. Probably hard to see. But with a butt joint, what you want to do is try to disguise the hump. You won't be able to get this joint perfectly flat with the wall because it's already perfectly flat, and then you add a piece of tape over top of it, so you're going to have a hump in the wall. So what I do, cut down your edges. You see, you pull a tight coat down the center, and this gives me an idea of how much material I have on either side that I need to take off. This is perfectly flat. So then I'll just pull that much mud off, go to the left-hand side, pull that much mud off. Now you'll see the trowel as I pull down here, it dug into the center, which means there's a little bit more material in this middle than what I want. So I'll come back through, fix that, cut down the side, cut down the other side. Last thing, I'll just pull a tight coat down the middle. So that's the first coat on a butt joint. Once that sets up, I'll show you how to skim. All right, so here's how you put on the skim coat. You see that the bed coat, the edges are feathered in, but if you look closely, you'll see pits. So basically, all we're going to be doing is filling in the pits. Now you can't help but leave just a little bit of an edge sometime when you're putting on your first coat, and we're going to be feathering that out as well. So the process is just to pull a little bit of mud above this line and below this line, and then pulling a very tight coat. We're going to slick this down. So that's a skim coat. So this job, I want to sand as little as possible. So typically, if this was just a full house, I would just apply there to the center. Cut down my top, cut down the bottom, and then go down the center. But in this particular case, because I want to do very little sanding, I'm going to bust this joint out just a little bit further. So what I'm going to do is add maybe two or 3 inches of material on the top. And you definitely do not want to have this much debris in your mud. I don't know where it came from, but it is what it is. All right. So I got my mud on. And you'll notice that instead of stopping on either side of the outlet, I just ran through the outlet. And what that will do is give you a much nicer joint than if you stop and start. on either side of the outlet. Okay, there you go. If you look closely, you'll have a very smooth surface. There's no bubbles, no air pits. You'll see just a little bit of junk, which will sand right out. So I'll show you this again real quick on this joint. Now if you angle your trowel up just a little bit, you'll
Show that
control the mud. As you get to the end of the joint, or the end of the wall rather, and you're wanting to bring more material this way, you just simply close your trowel, and that forces the mud on down the wall. Cut your joint. Now this particular trowel I'm using to skim is actually not a drywall trowel. This is a mason's trowel. This one's made by Marshalltown. So you will be able to use just a mason's trowel to do the skim coat. Has to be a flat trowel. So the first coat I showed you, that's put on with a bowed trowel.
Is it the same as that one?
No.
Okay. What's over there? Aha. There it is. Look the same to me. And that's why you're doing the drywall.
The bowed trowel, you do your bed coat. This mason's trowel, this is a flat trowel, and that's what you do your butt joints and also skimming with. So if you were doing the corner bead, for example, put the mud on the same way, trowel up from the bottom, and then this will give you a very straight joint, or straight bead rather, because again, this trowel doesn't flex a lot, and it just gives you a nice straight joint. All right, I'm going to get back to work. You guys have fun.